Hello, my name is Konfidentgrog and I am competitive Tekken 8 player from Sweden. I am main Haurang and I play for the organization Vina, and I have been very fortunate in being selected to review this controller, the QRD Maestro S3, and I want to give a huge shout out to QRD Games for sponsoring me with this controller, so thank you, very kind of you to reach out to me. So let's get into the controller itself. As you can guess, it's a leverless controller, and the first thing that's most important on all leverless controllers are just the buttons. And these are really nice. They feel good when you hit them. They sound very good as well. They're very responsive, and I haven't had any real issue with them at all while playing. These are actually as well the silent variant of their own. These buttons are made by QRD Game themselves, so these aren't Sanwa buttons or anything. These are buttons you'll only get by buying their products. I have never tried these before I got my hands on this controller, but they feel really good. These are the silent variants. While on the subject of the buttons, they are actually really easy to swap out on the Maestro S3, and I'm going to just show you real quick on how to do it. Everything you need is just a small tool with a flat top. We don't actually need to open the backside or anything like that. We actually only need to have this little tool, and then we gently try to put it inside under the button. There we go, there's the empty button. And then we can actually just remove the micro switch as well, just like that. And now we have a completely empty up input, which we can just now put in any kind of switch that we want and any kind of button cap that we want. So it's extremely painless, it goes extremely fast if you know what you're doing. I've only done this once before, and as you can see, it went by really fast. And putting it in is just a matter of putting it back into place like such, and that is it. And for the box, like actually for itself, it is extremely light. It is really light. It is only like 800 grams in total. So compared to something like the original hitbox, which is not only larger, it's also way heavier at around like 2 kilos. So this one is really nice being able to just take around with you if you're traveling for tournaments or going to locals or whatever it could be. So if you're wondering about the specific size for it, it is 300 millimeters long, 200 millimeters wide, and then it is 31 millimeters tall at the largest size here. And on the subject of that, as you can see, it's actually slanted towards where you would keep your hands. So you would have your hands up somewhere like this, and it's actually really comfortable. It's not something that I have ever really thought about, but it is one of those things that is just really good for your hands, to put less stress on them so you can actually play as much as you want without risking hand injuries or something. And the same thing with having like these small like rests for your hand is also very good for that. So it's just comfortable, it just feels very natural to use this controller. If you've ever used another leverless controller, it feels really natural to go over to this one from my experience. Okay, so let's go on to actual features of the controller itself. First things first, it actually comes with L3 and R3 buttons, which is very handy if you're lagging a lot, depending on the game. I used to play some Guilty Gear Strive, and I remember I had to actually change some binds when using my old hitbox, because I couldn't record and start recordings by just like doing a combination of inputs. I had to have specific binds for that. And one thing I also want to mention is that if you're like me and you are used to pressing like a button up here and then 3 or whatever to reset, that is not the case on the Maestro. You actually have to press the touchpad and then press 3. As you have already seen, it does come with its own RGB lighting, but in case you don't want it to keep changing like it's doing right now, you can very easily swap it to any kind you want. And it is very, very pain-free if you want to swap colors for any reason, or if you just want to turn them off as well. That is also an option that you can go for if you want to. So right now, there, as you can see, no lights, and then you just press and hold L3 and R3 for like 2 seconds, and you can change it. Very, very practical. So depending on what you want, if you think it's annoying having lights or something going on, you can just remove that if you want to. And on the subject of the lights, it might be a bit hard for you to see, but the lights are protruding a little bit around the button, a little bit above the box itself. Now, I haven't had any kind of issues with this while playing. It's not something I've noticed while playing as well. I don't think it's something that you'll notice too much when actually playing with the controller. So another thing that's very, very cool that you can actually do with the Maestro is that you can actually change SOCD input method. So with normal SOCD, what happens is if you press down and up at the same time, you get up as an input. But for the Capcom Pro Tour, they don't allow that. So you need to have SOCD where it is up and down equals neutral. Out of the box, it will come with the first SOCD cleaning method. But if you want to change it, you can hold the options button and then hold up for around 2 seconds. And now it is really hard for you to see it, but this little light here does flicker when you have successfully changed the SOCD method. You have the options of what kind of SOCD method you want to use, depending on the game you're playing and what the competitive rulings are. And while on the subject of that, you can also change what the buttons actually counts as. And what I mean with this is that you can change the buttons so they count as either the D-pad, the left stick, or a right stick. So I'm gonna take my Switch Pro controller. So you can actually make it so the movement buttons on the Maestro counts as either the left stick, the D-pad, or the right stick, which is very cool. It's a very nifty feature. Depends on what kind of game you will be playing with the Maestro and what you're comfortable with, which is probably one of the biggest things about the Maestro, is that it's so flexible in how you can use it, which is very nice, very nice. Oh yeah, another nice thing about the Maestro is that it natively works on almost every system out there. It works on the PS4, the PS3, the Switch, PC, Xbox 360, and it even works on your phone, both Android and iOS. And in case you are on the move, it actually comes with this tiny little holding feature for your phone. So let's just put that in. So it would look something like this when you have your phone attached to it, which is very nice if you are traveling or whatever it is you're doing, if you have an emulator on your phone, or even just a non-fighting game on your phone and you just want to have a controller to be able to play whatever game it is you want to play. And also, while on the subject of playing while on the move, it actually has its own audio jack, which is just a standard 3.5 millimeters. You can actually play while on the move, while on a train or something, and still have audio, but without actually disturbing other people around you On this subject as well, when you first insert this into your PC, it will steal the audio from your headset or your speakers. So remember to put it back onto whatever it is you're using after you plug this in for the first time. One thing as well that is very, very interesting with the Maestro is the fact that you can actually play it wireless if you really, really want. And even with the lights on, it has an 8-hour lifespan before it needs a recharge. And it also has 30 days of charge retention. So you don't even need to charge it like every night like you would a phone or something. And if you're wondering about the range of the wireless, it's about 8 meters. So depending on the space you're currently in, it could be nice just being able to be a bit further away from whatever setup it is you're using. Just remember that it is using Bluetooth. So in case you want to use it on PC, you need to have Bluetooth capabilities on your PC. So let's go back up again, up here, as you guys can see right here. It does have a turbo function as well, which was something I activated by mistake the first time I tried it out. So I was thinking that I was messing up my inputs super bad. And while it's not something that is super relevant to fighting games, again, it's nice to have if you're gonna play another game. I don't know how many others of you uses a leverless controller for Cuphead, but it's what I did when I was playing with a friend, and it's definitely nice to have the option. Since I've been changing a lot of settings on the controller, I actually don't know which SOCD method it is currently on. And if you're like, oh, you've changed like the lighting, whatever it is you've done, and you're like, okay, I don't remember what latency method it is I've put it on as well. There's actually a really, really handy button on the back side here, right there, which is just a reset button. So you press the reset button and it goes back to the settings it had coming straight out of the box. In case you've changed it or someone else has changed it because they borrowed it or something, you can always go back to factory settings very easily. You don't have to worry at all about what settings you put the controller on. And in case you're wondering like, oh, but there's so many settings and how am I supposed to remember how to actually like swap them all? You actually get this very handy little guide when you get the controller, which just has all the information on it. It tells you how you change the buttons, how you change the latency methods, how you change the directional input, what it counts at, how you change the SOCD, and everything like that. So very, very handy to have with you. Cons on the controller. Just like my previous review, all my cons on this controller are actually very nitpicky according to me. So my first one is on this controller is the fact that the wire you get isn't weaved. It's just a regular, plastic kind of wire, which is totally fine, but I'm definitely one of those who I always want to have weaved cable, just because it does help with the survival of when you're traveling a lot and such. It's just one of those things that's like, it's nice if it would be, but since this controller uses just a regular USB-C to USB, it is no issue just swapping it to any kind of cable it is you want. During this video, I'm actually using a weaved cable for my controller, so very easy to swap it out. It doesn't have a lock feature as well, which I feel is really, really strange. Like, it has so many features with the buttons on top and button combinations, but it doesn't actually have a lock feature that you can't activate for tournament play or such. So it's not a big deal because all the buttons for start and such, they are a bit out of the way, but still it would have been nice to just have it. And given how many other quality of life things this controller has, it's a bit odd, I think, that it doesn't come with a lock feature, but it's not a big issue. Again, All of my complaints are pretty nitpicky, but I think it's worth mentioning. And the biggest issue I've had with this controller, and probably the biggest reason to why I won't swap to it, is the fact that it doesn't work natively on PS5, which is the tournament standard for Tekken 8 and Street Fighter 6. So if you're planning on getting this, you will need to get a converter like the Brook Wingman, for example. So be mindful of that. But if you're someone who doesn't travel too much to tournament or don't play games that are PS5 exclusive games such as Tekken 8 or Street Fighter 6, it won't matter too much to you, but it's definitely the thing that's gonna keep me from actually playing it. My ending thoughts on it is that it is an extremely solid leverless controller that won't financially ruin you. It costs $169 without shipping, so even if you have to get a Wingman converter that goes for like $60, I think, it's still cheaper than all of the PS5 native leverless controllers that I know of. The buttons are really nice, in my opinion. They sound good and they feel good. The fact that it's so light and so small compared to like the standard hitbox makes it very easy to take with you if you're traveling to either tournaments or locals or whatever it is you're going to. Very, very handy. It is extremely feature rich with just being able to change like input latency, SOCD method, and programmable input directions, which I talked about earlier. It just comes with so many features that I didn't know I wanted until I had them. And now it's gonna feel really weird of not having them when I'm going back to my other controller. If you're interested in trying a leverless controller or just getting something that's smaller than the regular hitbox, I would highly recommend the QRD Maestro S3. I actually already have a really solid leverless controller, but I actually recorded a bunch of my Tekken 8 videos with this controller just because it is such a pleasant experience using this. And all the features, while most of them might not be super necessary for you to just use it to play fighting games or whatever, it's still very nice to just have the option. I'd rather have the option and not need it than need it and not have it, you know. Yes, that's going to be it for my review of the QRD Maestro S3. Once again, I just want to give a huge thanks to QRD Games for sponsoring me with this controller. It has been super lovely experience trying it out and getting to try all of these features. It's a really solid controller and I recommend it highly. But for now, that's going to be it for me. Peace.